Donald Trump. He's running for president, and somehow he clobbered through just a litany of establishment goon type Republicans over there on the right. I mean, you have some of the most establishment Republicans in the land, like Jeb Bush and Chris Christie and Rick Santorum. I don't think he lasted long enough to actually get the wrath of Trump. Mike Huckabee, the list is long. I don't remember. It's been so long ago since Trump, basically like a wrecking ball, destroyed the aspirations of all these, like I said, elite Republican, just career politician, crony capitalist, dirtbag establishment Republicans. You know, like, this isn't the year for establishment politics. Hillary Clinton should have realized that. Bernie Sanders proved it. And Donald Trump is proving it. Now, I argue Donald Trump is the establishment. He's part of the corruption. Like you say, Hillary Clinton's corrupt. We know. We've seen the pay for play and all that shit. Donald Trump is the pay on the pay for play. Because when you're talking about the Clinton Foundation, Donald Trump has donated to the Clinton Foundation. So that's the kind of pay to play I'm talking about. You give somebody money, they give you access, and then you give them back access, and it works both ways, and it's just a big club, and you're not in it. Like you've heard that before. Alright, so Donald Trump, he's a businessman. I'm going to read from Tom Angell again, a great author and activist. That's who put this together. It's basically a collection of things that Trump has said over the years. Let's just jump in. So he's this businessman that claims to be a billionaire and has a bunch of Trump stuff all over the place. Used to be on a reality TV show, and he says he supports medical marijuana, but has taken conflicting positions on full legalization over the years. He supports the right of states to enact their own marijuana laws without federal interference. We'll see. One thing about Trump is whatever he says his position is at whatever time it is convenient for him to say that position, I don't know if I believe him. You know, politicians used to make promises. They used to be like, okay, here's my position, and here's the actual promise that I promise I will do once I'm in office. And of course, they were famous for breaking them, but at least they made them. You know, at least you kind of like, it solidified their position a little bit. With Trump, he's all over the place, and his position is weird at best sometimes. So in 1990, Trump called for legalizing all drugs. Quote, "We're losing badly the war on drugs. You have to legalize to win that war," he said. You have to take the profit away from those drug czars. What I'd like to do maybe by bringing it up, because enough controversy that you get into a dialogue on the issue of drugs so people will start to realize that this is the only answer. There is no other answer. I have to agree with that, Donald Trump. All right, in 2015, at the Conservative Political Action Conference, CPAC, Trump stated that he's against the legalization of marijuana. Quote, "I think it's bad. I feel strongly about that. They got a lot of problems going on right now in Colorado, some big problems." However, when asked about states' rights aspect to marijuana law, Trump said if they vote for it, they vote for it. Medical marijuana is another thing, he said. "I think medical marijuana 100%. On another occasion, he said, "Medical I agree with, medical I like, medical is okay." Now, in the Hillary video, I kind of mentioned that she talks in platitudes a lot, and you never really get the guts of the details that you want, or the actual position, just the shade over to the side and, you know, glorified position maybe. But with Trump, it's like you're talking to a third grader or something that don't really even know. You just kind of like a parrot. He's just parroting ideas that's in his head about what might be the right thing to say according to his political leanings that he's trying to portray. All right, I'm going to quit speculating and just read some more. On full legalization, he added, and then I really believe you should leave it up to the states. It should be a state situation. In terms of marijuana and legalization, I think that should be a state issue, state by state. In an interview with WWJ News Radio in Detroit, Trump said legalization has, quote, got to be a state decision. Colorado did it, as you know, and I guess it's very mixed right now. They haven't really made a final determination. There seems to be certain health problems with it, and that would be certainly bothersome. I don't know what these health problems is he keeps talking about in Colorado. It's a little bit of the worst reefer madness is what's starting to develop with Trump's recreational position. Certainly, wait. So Trump said legalization should continue to be studied. He reiterated support for medical cannabis. I do like it, from a medical standpoint, because people are saying from a medical standpoint it does do pretty good things. But from the other standpoint, I think it should be up to the states. Certainly from the medical standpoint, a lot of people are liking it. On ABC's This Week, Trump said legalization should continue to be studied, but it's not something I'd be willing to do right now. He hinted that in the absence of robust policing or border control, legalization may be an option. Quote, maybe it has to be looked at because we do such a poor job policing. We don't want to build walls. We don't want to do anything. And if we're not going to want to do the policing, we're going to have to start thinking about other alternatives. What about the marijuana arrest every 37 seconds? I think we're doing way more than enough policing. But it's not something that I would want to do. But it's something that certainly has to be looked at, and I looked at it. If we police properly, we shouldn't do that. So he's saying, if we police properly, we shouldn't legalize marijuana because we won't need to. I don't know, it doesn't make much sense. So anyway, some advocates are worried that if Trump names New Jersey Governor Chris Christie as Attorney General, as has been widely speculated, he could change his mind on respecting state marijuana laws. But in an interview with KUSA TV in Denver, Trump was specifically asked about Christie's pledge to enforce cannabis prohibition even in the states with legalization, which Christie said when he was running for president and was asked the question of what would you do if you were president on the marijuana legalization going on around the country. Now remember, he said that he would even try to shut down the medical marijuana, which is weird because he's had it going on in his state for a while and he hasn't really tried to do much but thwart it. So, yeah. He said he wouldn't do that, Trump did. And he says he thinks it's up to the states. I'm a states person. I think it should be up to the states, absolutely, said Trump. Absolutely. On other occasions, he has seemed less certain about what the federal response to state legalization should be. For example, on Hugh Hewitt's radio show, Trump said he was watching Colorado's experience with legalization and didn't like what he saw. Quote, well, there are a lot of bad things in Colorado with people's health. And if you look at the results, they're getting some pretty bad results. Plus, it's being taken all over the place. I mean, I would have to look at it very seriously, he said. All right, so anyway, bad results not happening. People's health not happening. Nothing bad's happening, Trump. Anyway, he goes on. Now, I think if you ask or if you talk about medical, you're talking about a different ball of wax. But there are a lot of bad results happening in Colorado, and people are talking about it. No, just stupid propaganda commercials in Arizona. That, by the way, Colorado called Arizona and said, could you please stop spreading all that crazy reefer madness about what's going on in Colorado, because none of it's true. He said, I'm reading about it, so I would be looking at a couple of different things, but I would really like to study it further because they're doing a lot of studies. But some bad medical reports and some bad things are happening with what's going on in Colorado. So, like I was saying, I was comparing the platitudes earlier. Hillary's platitudes at least mention things by name and maybe give you an idea, kind of a vague, cloudy picture of what she's talking about with the platitudes and positions and all that. With Trump, the platitudes are just ridiculously vague and just sophomoric in nature. Like, I've, some bad things are happening with what's going on in Colorado. I don't know. Well, I guess we're going to get there. Trump seems similarly undecided in an interview on Fox's The O'Reilly Factor. Quote, in Colorado, the book isn't written on it yet, but there's a lot of difficulty in terms of illness and what's going on with the brain and the mind and what it's doing. There you go. In some ways, I think it's good. In other ways, it's bad. But he reiterated that he supports medical marijuana. I know that people have serious problems, and they did that, and it really does help them. So this is the weird platitudes ever. He expanded the platitude a little bit. So now the problems and the bad things that are happening in Colorado are in terms of these illnesses and these brain and the what's going on with the brain and the mind. I haven't heard. What is it, Trump? Hillary was kind of doing the same thing. Like, she would tell you something like, we don't know what the right way or the wrong way to word it is, or this or that. But she never told you the wrong way. Well, here he's finally telling you a little bit more about, the bad things that are happening. But it's even more vague. But it makes the question mark in your head just grow bigger and start pulsating. Like, what are you talking about? Problems with the brain and the mind? And what are they talking about? So he knows that people that have serious problems, and they did that, and it really helped them. So somehow these brain problems and mind illnesses that you get from marijuana is worth it because of these other problems that the medical marijuana helps. I guess that's his final position so far. All right, so, and during the town hall in Wisconsin, Trump said he was hearing mixed things about legalization in Colorado. Quote, I'm watching Colorado very carefully, see what's happening out there. I'm getting some very negative reports. I'm getting some okay reports. But I'm getting some very negative reports coming out of Colorado as to what's happening. So we'll see what happens. Of marijuana use, he said, there's a lasting negative impact. You do too much of it, there's a loss of something. So that book has not been written yet, but it's gonna be. Written pretty soon, and I'm not hearing very positive things. So we're back to the weird platitude that there's bad things, not very positive things. The book hasn't been written yet, but too much of it, and there's something lost. You lose something. This sounds like he didn't watch the full commercial back in the 70s and 80s when the Reefer Madness commercials of the day were running. Like, you do too much of it, and there's a loss of something. I mean, it kind of reminds me of the commercial where the dude's sitting there smoking a joint, talking about all this cool shit, and then all of a sudden his mom's like, hey, did you go looking for a job yet today? Oh, Jesus. Like it's his fault there ain't no jobs in the economy. Okay. So, yeah, there's something wrong with it. And you keep seeing Trump, his position is you're starting to see what it is. It's molded. It's like recreational, yeah, we're good. I'm not going to jump right on this. Medical, great. Recreational, not so good. Bad things with the mind. Mental illness, maybe. I don't know. People criticize Jill Stein because she don't like how the pharmaceutical lobby mandates certain things like inoculations and stuff. People criticize her and call her some kind of a vaxxer or something, like she's part of this conspiracy to tell people not to take vaccinations. No, that's not what she's saying. She's saying we should look into whether these vaccinations are necessary or not, and what the interests of the pharmaceutical industries that are paying politicians to make it mandated so that they can just line their pockets. So that's the problem. the problem is the pharmaceutical people paying the politicians to mandate shit. And Trump ain't getting that money from those people that corrupt politicians. It's kind of good in a way. And what he's saying is basically that he's basically trying to come up with propaganda on his own, and it's pretty funny to watch. All right, let's get back to it. During the town hall, after all that, in terms of medical, on the broader criminal justice issues, he added, with prisons, I do think we can do a lot of privatizations and private prisons. It seems to work a lot better. I don't think that's the problem we have with prisons. And I think that position that you just took on private prisons just makes it a little bit weird that you're even, like you're looking at the criminal justice issues from a completely different standpoint than where we're at as a nation, with criminal justice reform needing to happen because of the disproportionate amount of black and brown people getting arrested for these crimes that are with ramped up jail sentencing guidelines. That's the kind of reforms that the real people of this country really want to see talked about. Not, we need to make more private prisons. We need to privatize more prisons. How is that going to help anything? Private prisons are the ones that try to get more people going to prison. Private prisons are behind the lobby to stop marijuana legalization because they want to keep people in prison. They get rich when people are in prison because they're not really private at all. They're privately owned, and what they do is they get grants from the government just like every other prison. So if they have the right amount of people in their prison, then they get more money. So that's what it is. When asked by MSNBC's Joe Scarborough whether people should be sent to jail for marijuana, Trump responded, I don't really think so. But I think that maybe the dealers have to be locked away very strongly. I don't know how strongly they need to be locked away, but just legalize marijuana and make them legitimate business owners. How about that, instead of locking them up very strongly? Addressing state marijuana laws, Trump predicted that the momentum will continue to be on the side of those who favor reform. Quote, you have states all of a sudden legalizing it, so it's sort of hard to say that you're on one side of the border and you go to jail, and you're on the other side of the border and you can go to a store and buy it. So there's going to be changes made there, Joe, and there has to be. This is a very tough subject nowadays, especially since it's been legalized and will continue to be legalized. So it sounds like he's trying to relax federal law with that statement. Because what he's saying is that if you have a state right here where it's legal and a state next door where it's illegal, just crossing the border, your status of legality is different just depending on whether or not you have marijuana. And there should be protections offered for people like that, in my opinion. Like if you roll over into a state that's illegal and they're like, oh, busted, but you just came from a place where you live where it's legal. So yeah, I think protections is needed there. In an interview on Fox News, Trump called marijuana a big problem, saying that the drug has tremendously damaging effects to the mind, to the brain, to everything. So there you go. He finally solidified and cemented and bolted it and blowtorched it and made sure that shit was solidly in place, his position on recreational. Not that he really said anything, just that it has damaging effects to the mind, the brain, and everything. But he reiterated that he's all for medical marijuana use. Wow, even if it damages everything, and the mind, and the brain, as long as you can get the munchies after chemo, it's okay. I don't know what the hell that position is. So, in the book, The America We Deserve, Trump claims that he's never tried marijuana. I've never taken drugs of any kind. Never had a glass of alcohol. Never had a cigarette. Never had a cup of coffee, he wrote. Similarly, in an interview with Fox News' Jesse Waters, Trump said, no, I haven't smoked marijuana. I would tell you 100% because everyone else seems to admit it nowadays. I've never smoked a cigarette either. In an interview with People magazine, Trump indicated that his aversion to drug use was shaped by his brother's death from alcoholism. He had a profound impact on my life because you never know where you're going to end up, he said. So again, that was Tom Angell. A lot of props going to him that wrote that piece and did that research and put that piece together. Yeah, it didn't take me as long to hack through Trump, because overall, as a Republican now, and before he wasn't even a politician. So unless you looked into the detailed transcripts of The Apprentice, and maybe somewhere in the show he was talking about marijuana with somebody or whatever, I'm sure it came up. It's a show about people, trying to get this job as a boss or whatever. So, marijuana is one of those things in the workplace. It's always a hot button issue. So I'm sure if you're looking for ratings, and when you are looking for ratings, you're doing things that are covering hot button issues. He hasn't had to have very many situations where people asked him what his position on legalizing marijuana is. His position's not much different than Hillary's. He's talked about research with medical marijuana a little bit, and he talks a lot about the dangers of recreational. So maybe if someone told him there wasn't no dangers with the recreational, he'd be okay with it. Like, he's talking about all these mind, the problem with mind. He's not even using propaganda that you can see on TV in states that are trying to legalize marijuana. All you gotta do is turn the TV on and sit there for 5 minutes, and you'll know everything there is to know about, pot shops everywhere, and, marijuana, high on marijuana drivers crashing into families of 10 and killing everybody. And, there's the medibles that your dog's gonna accidentally eat and die right off the bat, and probably your 2-year-old kid, he's going to find that medible just sitting there on the coffee table where you left it because you ate half of it and passed out, and your kid finds it, eats it, boom, he's off to the hospital. Probably going to go to the morgue after that. No, probably not. See, the propaganda is there, Trump. The fact that you're not parroting the propaganda that's out there is actually a relief, because if you do somehow become president, I know you're not hell-bent on making marijuana illegal again, because it's not in your wheelhouse, for one. And two, you're not parroting this propaganda that is out there being cranked out by these seedy groups that are out there trying to make marijuana remain illegal or not get legalized in any more capacity than it already is. The powers that be are the alcohol lobby, who's already noticing that they're losing a lot of money, because in states where marijuana is legal, people are buying 20 to 25% less alcohol. That's a lot. Pharmaceutical drug manufacturers, same thing. They're seeing a huge dip in their overall distribution of pills. And one of the big ones is for pain. So, they're out there fighting tooth and nail, the people that make Oxycontin and the people that make Vicodins and the people that make your fentanyls. They're fighting marijuana legalization like no tomorrow. I don't know about Sheldon Adelson. He's just this rich guy that hates marijuana. So he's out there doing it too. And if it wasn't for him, Florida might have passed their shit the last time they tried. So is Trump your traditional Republican prohibitionist that's hell-bent on tough talk on marijuana, even though they might be talking about some other drug epidemic like prescription medication? All of a sudden you had like a Ronald Reagan or a George H.W. Bush. George W. Bush didn't have to do it, so he didn't really bother, but he did have his heyday taking out dispensaries in Los Angeles for a few years there. That was him. But overall, Republicans are usually the ones coming out hard. Like George H.W. Bush, he said, yeah, we will enforce marijuana laws. If you don't think we're going to enforce marijuana laws, you got that twisted. We're coming to get you. And if you think there's not enough prisons, not enough room for you in prison, well, guess what? We'll build more prisons. And then he tried to build more prisons, and then that backfired because people are like, well, it kind of makes us nervous that you want to build so many prisons, you crazy right-wing Republican. So when Bill Clinton came around, then they were like, oh, wait, we can do this prison thing that Bush wanted to do. We can build all these prisons and put these people in jail for marijuana. And they did that. And then they got these 3 strikes laws and all this. So the fact that Trump isn't one of those Republicans already is a relief, because there's a slim chance, or there's a last I heard it was like a 35% chance, lordy lord, that Trump might become the next president. And with crooked Hillary, as crooked as she is, who knows what's going to happen between now, it's like Friday morning, and Tuesday. There might be another wiki leak. There might just be the FBI saying, hey, we got enough shit, it's over. Who knows? Trump might become the next president of the United States. And there's a lot of shit that comes with that sucks. I know. But one thing that won't come with it don't look like, is a Chris Christie Attorney General coming in and saying, hey, guess what? From California to Maine, from Florida to Seattle, no more. All the marijuana, cut it out. It's done. We're coming to get you. That's not going to happen, I'm pretty sure. Trump or no Trump. Is he going to jump on the bandwagon and do something in the scheduling department? I don't know, man. I don't think he really cares. Will the pharmaceutical industry try to come and pump him for it? They might. Now, I did hear him talk a little bit of smack about the pharmaceutical industry before, about how they gouge for pills. Again, it was Trump and it was rhetoric, and you don't believe, when you put Trump and rhetoric in the same sentence, it already sounds shady as fuck. But do you believe this rhetoric that he had about the pharmaceutical industry gouging and him wanting to do something about it? Or was he just parroting something Bernie said? I'd rather him parrot something Bernie says than something that, say, Sheldon Adelson wants him to say. So, what else about his toxic Reefer Madness? His Reefer Madness is kind of a joke. I think he was just saying it to appease his right-wing buddies at Fox News or wherever else he was being interviewed when he said it. And you can look at where he said what, and you can kind of say, oh, when he was on the O'Reilly Factor, he did go a little bit more harder in the paint than, say, when he was on Good Morning America. I'm not going to argue with anybody that says, well, he's really solid on his position, because I'm not going to argue with that, because I don't have that much passion to do that. I look at Trump as a joke, a buffoon. His rhetoric is for the moment and to appease whoever right there and then will be appeased, even if it might hurt him a week down the road with bigger numbers of people. I've seen that. I mean, he's tweeted stuff from white supremacists. He's retweeted white supremacist tweets. He's tweeted Mussolini quotes. The guy is a little bit crazy. I mean, it wasn't, I'm not saying that there's anything absolutely insane about retweeting a Mussolini quote or whatever. It's just the timing, You're running for president and people are calling you a fascist right out of the gate. It's not a good form, dude. So, I don't know what else I can say about Trump, man. He's not the standard Republican, but he is a Republican. Is the Republicans that are in the background writing laws, are they going to craft some kind of a federal way to re-ban marijuana even more than it's already banned? Or just simply enforce the Schedule 1 designation and start going on and cracking heads? They don't have to have the president's approval to do that. Now, if the Democrats don't get their shit together and flip the Senate or the House or something, or, if Hillary is the president, I'm not excited about that, but the idea here is that the House and the Senate approve some package of enforcement regime where they are going to go shut down these states that legalize marijuana, recreational and medical, or they're going to move it to a Schedule 2 like Hillary wants to do. The president doesn't have to approve any of that shit. The president has to sign the final thing into law. But if it's already a law and they just have to come up with a way to enforce it, then that's just a matter of the House and the Senate setting up a committee, and the committee makes sure that the shit gets enforced. And we don't need that. We already have the Drug Enforcement Administration. We already have so many of these government bureaucracies set up to circumvent the people's will. We don't need any more of this shit. So I guess either way, whether it be Hillary or Trump, we're pretty much looking at the same old slow progress towards legalization, towards decriminalization, towards ending prohibition. Um, there's the future is now. There's going to be a vote on Tuesday, and I have a lot of faith that most of the medical marijuana and recreational marijuana laws are going to pass. And two, there's going to be a general feeling of relief when California announces that it passes. And three, the beginning of the discussion to end prohibition on marijuana, to take marijuana off schedule, is really going to start taking hold. It's going to be a serious thing. I'm leading that effort with the phone bake, and tomorrow I will be calling the DEA to get information about this commenting that the public can do. I bought me a cheap ass burner phone so that they don't know it's me. I might even just tell them it's me. I don't know. But anyway, I'm kind of nervous to do this DEA call. Not super nervous, but I'm a little bit nervous, to be honest. So, and that's not why it's taken all week. I've just had a busy week. But keep watching. Keep looking for updates on the phone bake. Hopefully tomorrow I'll have some good news, some contact info for the general public to make comments about the removal of marijuana from the Controlled Substances Act. Something that Tiny Hands Donnie and Crooked Hillary are just, neither of them are all that interested in doing.